G'day everybody, thanks for stopping by. In today's video we're going to have a bit more of a look into the Brass Monkey portable air conditioner. 5100 BTU cooling unit, not listed as a heater, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. People have had questions, so did I. Runs around about 600 watts of power. We need to talk about that as well, and we need to talk about what's capable of running it and what's not capable of running it, and what you might need to consider if you're looking at buying one of these. Three things you need to consider if you want to buy this unit. One, how are you going to power it? Two, how are you going to store it when it's not in use or when you're traveling? Three, how are you going to set it up in the van to make it most efficient? Those are the three things you need to consider. Now, for more detail, we'll talk about that later on in the wrap-up. Here's the testing of the video and show you what paces I've put it through. Let's get into it. Now, just going into this review, you need to be realistic about your expectations about what this is capable of. It's a small portable air conditioning unit, and it's about half of the capacity of the standalone air conditioning units that you would have inside, like the tall units. They're about 1200 BTU. This one's about 5100. Would I like it to be able to cool this van down to half of that temperature at half of the power? Absolutely, but that's not realistic. The unit itself is getting sun, the van's in full sun. This van doesn't have a hell of a lot of insulation in it, and it's all metal construction. Heat there, so 37.5 degrees is this back panel here. So that's just climbed up over 40 degrees now. So again, just being realistic about what we're working with. It's now just hit 51 and it's still going up. Hopefully you can see that. 52. Sit in front of it, sit near it, get that air blowing on you, make the most of it that way. So if you had a better van with better insulation and you were parking in the shade and maybe not having to worry about solar, you just had it plugged into shore power, it could be a completely different scenario, and probably a better one than what we're about to see here. So keep that in mind as we walk through this review. Have a go at this view, will you? I have sprayed this fly, but he refuses to die. What I've done is just chuck literally everything in the box in the bag. I haven't prepared anything else. I was going to do a Bunnings trip, buy some extra hose, all that sort of stuff, and I thought, nah. We are doing an out-of-the-box situation. Now, with that in mind, I really haven't prepared anything to be able to suit the van. I could knock up a piece of wood with ducting and stuff like that. I haven't done any of those things. And look, if I was happy to sleep in this front bed and use that sliding window, it'd be real easy just to put this piece of foam, which it doesn't look like I bought, straight in that window and be good. More than enough vent here to just go out this window here. So that is about as good as it gets, just running out the top there. Now I'm not happy with this at all. This is flimsy as, oh there you go. So I thought I'd already broken them, but that's not even hanging on there. You can see that. So when I was trying to maneuver this hose up there, this thing just kept pulling off all the time. So this needs a better solution. This top one was fine. I mean, they're both going out the top. Cool air obviously coming out the front. That one's not clipped in real well there either. The vents on this thing, or the covers for the vents, are definitely its worst point. 29 degrees in here. I'm going outside to play a radio, and we'll just let this run.
Name here is Matt, Mike Alpha, Tango Tango.
Yeah, good afternoon, Matt. First time we've worked, mate, I believe. Name this way is Brett, Bravo, Romeo, Echo, Tango, Tango. Mate, just hanging out at Chaffey Dam, having a bit of a camp with the ICOM 705 and the little amp, putting out about 25 watts into an end fed, mate. Beautiful weather here. Chaffey Dam, mate, which is about 50 kilometres southeast of Tamworth, mate, over. It's a nice talk for the first time, mate. We'll do it all again in the near future, I hope. All the best, mate. VK1 Mike Alpha, VK2 Mike Romeo X-Ray.
No worries, all. Cheers, 7-3, all the best there, Brett.
7-3, mate.
Greg, you made certainly a lot of DX contact with Europe. Victor Kilo 2 Golf, Juliette Charlie, Fox 6 Hotel Quebec, Papa. Au revoir, Greg, 73.
I guess it's been about an hour, I can't remember. Probably close to 40 minutes, I suppose. Thermometer that we put in there is showing 25 degrees. So it looks like it's come down about 5 degrees. Keep in mind, I mean, I've got the fan on half. It doesn't appear that the fan speed, high, medium or low, makes much difference at all to the power consumption. Just FYI, it just seems to be fan speed. That's certainly cooler than 30 degrees, but it's only got 20 odd degrees outside, so it's definitely going to be warmer in the van, but to be honest, it's not working as quickly as I expected. Keep in mind, I mean, it's still van's in full sun. It's a really hot van in summer. It's how I would camp. This is how I would camp. I would park in the sun like this, so I get my solar. I don't care about a hot van. I'll spend my time outside, or I'll go and just put a fan on and I'm happy like that. Pretty much exactly on 600 watts. It was 601, 594. So we're pretty much pushing the full 600 watts. So it's working hard. Keeping in mind, again, I've got that pop top up. We've got the canvas up. A situation that I would try and avoid if I was trying to cool or heat the van. As a comparison to my initial test, when I sat in the backyard and that freezing cold air was coming out of it, I'm not as impressed at this point, but I feel like it's going to be one of these ones. We'll just have to wait and see. Got to give it a fair crack, and that's what this weekend's about. Tested it yesterday, not so impressed, but I think it's more because the way it was set up. I'm going to try and push the air out the window now. I'm going to set it up in the table mode. So I'm going to break down the bed and then have the air conditioner sitting near that window. We can pump it straight out. 400 watt panels. Plugged into the Delta down under there in the shade, 240 volt coming around here. Now keep it in mind that because I haven't bought that foam piece, caravan's a little bit unique with its window situation, etc, etc. It's the venting that I'm having problems with. So I've come up with a solution that circumvents all that and ultimately gives the air conditioner itself, for going the venting, the best chance. So if it can't do it here, then it can't do it anywhere. It's kind of set it up like a window rattler. I've got just a support strap there just to hold some of that weight. I've got it supported inside. Most of the weight is forward here, so it's leaning inwards. And I've got it, I'll show you how we've got that set up inside. I've just found a piece of foam that I had in the van. So ultimately what I've got is the outlet on the outside and this on the outside as well. So as you can see, I've converted it to sort of dinette mode. I've just got the aircon jammed in the window here. I've got my bedding all sort of wrapped around it, just support the weight on this side so it doesn't, you know, fall in, trying to keep it level. When I moved it last night from where it was sitting here, it started to leak, despite the fact that I had that plug in. So I need to suss that out, and it has dripped a bit more water when I was moving it around here. I've only been in it, I've probably had it running 15 minutes, and it's gone from 30 degrees down to 27.5. So we're heading in the right direction. Still putting, oh nice, input 426 watts. I knew that thing could do better than the 400 watts. I knew it, absolutely knew it. 426 watts going in, 497 coming out. If that was full sun and we could keep that 400 watts coming in, currently running at 500 watts now, that's 100 watts deficit per hour. 422, 503, 400. Hopefully that's still 400. It is 427. Look at that. That means we could run this thing for about 10 hours before we depleted that. Delta 3. Not going to happen realistically, but just putting that math in your head. If I had another one of those 400 watt panels and had them both plugged into that Delta Plus, we'd run this aircon during the day, again providing there was at least some sun out there. We could run it indefinitely, and we've been running for about half an hour, 24 degrees here, 24 degrees here, so we've dropped 6 degrees in about half an hour. Right, so it looks like we're down about that 10 degrees again. 8 degrees, 8.1, 7.5, 6.3. Oh, holy shit. That can't be right, surely. Okay, that's why my arm is cold. 3.1 degrees it got down to. That was ridiculous. I'm glad I tested that. 5 to 6 degrees difference trying to heat the van between having the pop top up and having the pop top down and taking that canvas out of the equation. We've come from 30, we've dropped about 5-6 degrees thereabouts, trying to be fair. So what I'm going to do now is drop that canvas and we'll see what extra we can get there as well. I reckon that's going to give us at least 3 or 4 degrees. Because we've dropped the roof, I'm now down to 21 degrees up here. Dropping that roof has made all the difference, 21.5, and that's only been like for 10, maybe 15 minutes that I've dropped that roof, and we've already dropped, you know, 2.5 degrees or something like that. If I could have it set up like I've got it set up here, or really make sure that venting was going all right, I reckon this would be a good thing. I say that as it's just cut off, just kicked down to just the fan, so it seems to be for some reason content that it's now at that 16 degrees. It's not, so I don't know where the sensor is on that unit. It's now running 18 watts just to keep those fans going, so, which is how you'd use your aircon at home. You'd have it set at a temp, it would cool the area down. Once it got the temp, it would stop, and then once that temperature starts coming up again, it would come back on, the compressor would kick off. So we'll see how that goes. It's performing, I guess, as expected, and probably a little bit better than I expected, to be honest. I was expecting it to be average, and it's doing a pretty good job in here for what heat was in here and being able to remove that. I don't like doing recommendations. I usually like to just give people information and let you make the decision. But if this was me buying one, and I suppose I have bought one, but realistically just to test it, so my motivations are a bit different to yours. If you're looking to buy one, a couple of questions you need to ask yourself. First one is how I'm going to run it and how I'm going to provide it power. If you think you're running one of these off your caravan batteries, unless you've got a mammoth system with lots of solar, just forget about it. You're not running it off your 120 amp hour lithium battery. If you have the means to power it, I say yes. If you don't, then it's a moot point. Other thing that you need to consider for this is, do you have the ability to duct it well or mount it, or similar to what we've got over here. Now you don't need to hang it out of a window, but if you can get that ducting, if you can get this mounted as close to a window and have that ducting going straight outside, it makes it so much better and so much more efficient, and it cools so much better. It's not super noisy, but it's certainly not quiet. At the very least, you've got the fans going. So keep in mind that this is the first portable air conditioner that I've ever laid hands on. So the other units out there might be 10 times better than this, or they might be 10 times worse. I don't know. My channel isn't about trying to sell you something. It's just literally about sharing my experience. I just want to talk about some cons while they're on my mind. There's 3 that come to mind so far. One is those plastic clip-on pieces for the venting. Anticipate them breaking, right? The way they mount to this unit is crap. 2, the LCD screen is bullshit. You can't read that screen out in the daylight. Who's going to run an aircon outside, I suppose, but anywhere near daylight or a bright environment, you're not reading that screen. And the other thing is, once it's been running, and obviously you've got that hose, whatever thing going on out the back, the drain hole, when I picked it up and moved it in the van, it leaked everywhere. Despite the fact that I still had that hose, despite the fact that I still had that plug in the back. It doesn't have a remote control and it doesn't have an app, so it just doesn't. I've seen other ones like the Kick-Ass and stuff. It's got a remote control. The EcoFlow Waves, they've got an app that you can control it. It's a reasonably sizable unit for what it is, but that means it's got big radiators, and it does good cooling. Other than that, positives. I love the look of the unit. Really like the look of the unit. Love the colour because it kind of matches in with what appears to be my favourite colour these days. It's working quite well. for what it is. You can't have too much, can't have super high expectations of these things. It's reasonably power efficient, you know, that 500, 600 watts, and it's working. It seems to be working. So another has to be classed as a positive is that it's from Jaycar, and they're good as far as returns and things go. So if you get one of these and you're not happy with it, 30-day return, providing that's returned in saleable condition. So as long as you don't beat the shit out of it, you should be right to take it back. All at Road Tech Marine, I think, do these. It's Brass Monkey. So talking about the retailers and their return policies and things like that, you know, which is similar to, I suppose, Bunnings and Supercheap and stuff like that, your big retailers. And the fact that it is from a local guy that you can walk back in the shop and take it in and hand it over and say, look, this is not working. 21 degrees. So that seems about as low as we're going to get it. It was about a 9-degree difference. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is now try and use it to heat in here. Ultimately going to do is switch the port from here to here. Cold air outlet. Normally the compressor will have come on before now. It seems to be taking its time for some reason. For those of you who want to know whether you could just turn it around and use it as a heater, you can, providing that you turn it on before it's 16 degrees. Problem is 15.9, 15.6. This one started 16.1. It's not going to kick on at that temperature. So what I'm going to do is turn the diesel heater on, try and get it just above that 16 degrees. I actually put this fan on up here just to cycle the air coming out of that heater. As soon as I did that, must have hit the right spot over here, and it's away. That door opened while I went to get the thermometer. The compressor's kicked off, so I need to wait for it to warm up in here again so we can get the compressor come back on, and then we can test the temp. So this is saying, yeah, 16.1, 16 degrees in here. Compressor's on. No real cool air coming out here, so in theory we're venting straight outside. 3, 34, and on the increase. Okay, at this stage we're pulling 500 watts, so I'm going to run it for 40 minutes. According to this, we're still at, well, we're at 17 degrees now. According to the thermometer that we were using, I think we were on about somewhere about 17, 18 or something. I think we had it on. We've come up to 22 degrees. So it's actually done a reasonable job of keeping the space warm, or warming it up. Certainly as good as the diesel heater would have done. That being said, the diesel heater cost me about 10 amps at 12 volt. This would cost me about 45, and you can hear how noisy it is. So I would say yes, you could use it as a heater under a couple of provisos. One, you've got plenty of battery. It's not an efficient way of heating a space, but it can be done. And two, your space has to be above 16 degrees for this thing to turn on, to think that it's trying to cool, for you to use the hot air exhaust vent and then pipe that cool air outside. Now just set this up. I want to give you a look at this. I'll just come outside and do some testing. Anyway, but that thing is wobbling like a bastard. Just because I've seen examples of where the Delta Plus, the EcoFlow, was cutting out, but it kept going into overload. But when changing modes, there must be a spike that I'm not quick enough to capture, and the EcoFlow was just shutting off and going into overload. So we're currently pulling about 1,016 watts. That doesn't seem right. I don't know whether we've got an issue here, but I'm going to turn her off. Plugged it into the 240 here at home, and we're going to turn her on just to give you a look. No vibration at all, smooth as a baby's butt. The good news is it's not a Brass Monkey issue, but it means there's something different about that anchor unit, and I don't know what it is. I suppose here I'm cautioning you a little bit if you're trying to run it off one of these power stations. I think some of your power stations have got too much smarts in them, protections and things like that, and I think that's what's biting us in the arse here. Alright, so Kings to the rescue. Kings 120 lithium, I think it's 120, yep, 120, 1500 watt inverter. So I don't have a shunt or anything in line, so I'm really just looking to see whether this runs it. Sounded like it struggled for a little bit, but it is now on. and it's not vibrating, so we're getting the right, I think it's got to be a frequency thing there. And the Kings is happily churning along. Now, I think this battery's down to about 50%. I'm not sure. I know I did drop it, ran some stuff off it, and then packed it away. I've got a couple of those. Yeah, so that Kings, as the 1500 watt, started it up, no issues. But I have just switched this through modes, which would normally have the EcoFlow shutting off. It is, okay, there you go. All right, so the Kings did shut off, through mode switching on the Brass Monkey, but it has restarted itself. So she's come back online, and now this is kicked off again. So not ideal. The Kings handled that better than the Delta 3 Plus over here. It wouldn't restart up off the Delta 3 Plus, but the Kings 1500 watt just managed that. Is whilst it has an 1800 watt inverter in it, supposedly capable of 3600 watt peak. That peak is only if you've got the powerlifting mode or the X Boost mode on. It's only good for induction loads. So I have on one occasion ran into that shut off issue with the van inverter as well, 2000 watt. I don't know what the peak on that is, but I've run into that once, but other times it's worked fine. So at this point, my recommendation is, despite the fact that it's only a 600 watt unit, you're ultimately going to need a inverter that's going to be capable of handling that peak load, which can be anything up to sort of that 2300 watts. So ultimately you're looking at about a 3000 watt inverter, just to be sure. 5100 BTU, 600 watt power, 1500 watt cooling output. Again, I don't know how that works, but Mike says it so it must be so. For my $599, I'm happy with it. I'm going to keep using it. If I go away for a few days at a time, and I've got the option to set up all of my solar panels, so this is not costing me anything on the battery or costing me a minimal amount, then this will get pressed into service, no problems at all. If I was going to a caravan park, which I never do, then again, I would take this pressed into service. If I had a situation where I could permanently install it in the van, have it venting straight to the outside, that would be perfect, and I would run it. If you're looking at one of these portable air conditioners, whether this one, the EcoFlows, the Kick-Ass, whatever, you really need to be considering the situation as, is 10 degrees, like we're seeing here, indirect airflow gonna be enough for you on a hot day for what you're trying to cool down? So, 2-3 feet in front of the aircon to where that is, 24.5 versus 35 degrees outside, so it's cooling the air by about 10 degrees that's coming out of it. Okay, so that's it. Thanks very much for stopping by. That's been the Brass Monkey portable air conditioner. Overall, I'm happy with the unit. I've got it. I'm going to keep it, for me $600. Thanks very much for stopping by. Catch you on the next one. Cheers.